Hi everyone, so this is my Unit 7 video response, and basically the prompt is just asking us to choose a side on whether or not we believe that college athletes should be paid. So I sort of struggle with this topic and I kind of straddle the fence a little bit just because I can sort of go either way, just depending how I look at it. So for the purpose of this video, I'm going to say that I do believe that college athletes should be paid. But like I said, I kind of straddle the fence and I can sort of go either way on it. So why do I believe they should be paid? It's just because college athletes have no time for an actual job. So most college athletes can't do the summer internships. They can't have a career while they're in school. They can barely even have a part-time job if they're lucky. So they walk out of their collegiate athletic experience with 4 years of playing the sport they love and a degree, but they have no career experience and no money behind them to help get them further on in the real world with real life. So I think that if athletes even got paid just a little bit, they could have something to save for and work towards after graduation. And also, I think they're performing a duty for the school just as the student working in the bookstore, the student working in the cafeteria, or the student working in the library. All of these student workers are getting paid for their job, but athletes do not get paid whatsoever. So I think that that is something that if you're doing a duty for the school and you're bringing in revenue for the school, you should be getting compensated for that. Also, I think it would make the sports and the programs in general just more competitive because there's a pay check. So you can work harder to get a better pay, just like any other job. It's a little more incentive. So what are the positives and negatives? I think, like I said, for the positives, I feel like athletes will be more invested and bought into their program because I feel like the pay scale can work two separate ways, which I'll get into in the third question. But I think it'll create a bigger sense of competition because you're going to want to try and do better to earn more money. But I think the negatives are, obviously, if you're getting paid as an athlete, you're going to be considered a professional. So that violates the amateurism rule with the NCAA, which would be huge. So that would obviously have to be figured out and worked out somehow. Also, it's technically not fair to the smaller schools or the smaller sports, So this is where I kind of straddle the fence because I feel like if you're playing for a smaller school or you're playing a smaller sport like I did, I mean, I played softball. Softball doesn't bring in a ton of money for schools usually, but I received a scholarship. So I was extremely grateful and happy for the time that I spent playing the sport I loved. So I was never ungrateful that I wasn't getting paid because I knew that my team wasn't bringing in a ton of money for the school. So I think that's where I definitely straddle the fence is if you're a smaller school, if you're a smaller sport and you're still receiving a scholarship, then there's nothing to be ungrateful for in that aspect. But the bigger schools on the flip side of that, the Pac-12, the Big Ten, the SEC, all their football programs and basketball programs, they have players that are selling merchandise for them. They're selling jerseys, bobbleheads, putting these players in video games, doing all these things and making a ton of money and revenue off of it, and the players receive none of that money whatsoever. And so I think that's where the big difference is. That's where it gets a little touchy. But the third question asks, how would colleges regulate it? So I think there's sort of two ways to go about doing it. I think if you're going to be a school that says we're going to pay our athletes because they're student employees, then you have to at least give everyone a base rate pay. So whatever you pay the lowest wage on campus, that's what you should pay all athletes if they're participating in a sport. But on the flip side, I also believe it should sort of be incentive based. So the sports that make the most money should get the highest pay cuts because they're bringing in the most revenue, so they should be able to give back the most revenue in order to continue to get the bigger players to continue bringing in the revenue. It's a business. And then the athletes who perform better should make more, and it should be a yearly contract, so you're never locked in to something for 4 years. So if you do poorly, your pay gets deducted. If you do well, your pay gets raised. And I think those are the two sort of ways you can go about doing it. And the fourth question asks, should all athletes be paid? And if you're doing the every athlete is an employee route, then yes, you have to find a way to pay every single athlete, even just the bare basic minimum for being an employee at the school. But do I think that everyone should be paid the same amount? I personally don't think so. I think that the big football programs are obviously going to get more money, as they should, because they bring in more money. I think you must perform well to get paid, and your contracts are going to keep changing. It's going to be just like professional athletes. I think, but having that system will force the athletes to work hard, because they're going to want to keep their salary where it's at, or they're going to want to do better to get more. And it's just going to keep that competitiveness throughout the program, and it's going to change the way college sports are. So I think that would be big for sure. And then so the next segment, we looked at the website Knight Commission on Intercollegiate Athletics. And the first question for that asked, what did you learn from this website? And so I just think that this website obviously focuses on the student part of being a student athlete, just by making sure that academics never get swept under the rug simply for an athlete to play in a program. So the mission is to make sure that all athletes receive fair and equitable treatment in regards to academics. So this website and this organization really focuses on graduating on time, making academics a priority while you're on the athletic team, and staying within the mission of the college or university, because that's very important for athletes who are coming to school to play a sport. So you're never just coming to play a sport. The sport is going to end in 4 years. So you have to make sure that you're taking academics seriously. So I thought that's what I got from the website. And then the last question says, what do you find intriguing and valuable to you in your interaction with sport? And I always just find it to be interesting to see how schools treat their athletes in regards to academics. There are many conspiracies, controversies, ethical, moral issues that surround institutions who give their athletes the easy schedules, or the tutors who do all the work for their athletes. Or some schools even assign athletes to fake classes just to raise their GPA. And so all of these things I find super intriguing, because I've been around them. I've seen them to be true in some circumstances. Where I went to school, I know that the basketball team was given those priorities, and everything was made very easy for them, and it was just super simple walk. And then for us as student athletes, we were struggling and grinding all day to get to stay ahead in school. And so I think it's very valuable to put academics first, especially for someone like me who played softball in college. I know I don't have many opportunities post college to continue playing softball, and so I always made it a priority to make academics number one. So that's my video. Thanks, guys.